Hello and welcome to a new video. In today's video I will be trying out some new pens from Arrtx. This is the 48 colour set of their pump pens. They come with some spare nibs. It also comes as a 36 set, but I'm trying out the 48 today. The pens themselves have this pretty cute design on them, as well as the instructions printed onto them of how to use them. You have to activate them yourself first try, which is why they're pump pens. Obviously I have to do a swatch sheet. The thing with these pens is you need to shake them really well before use, ideally before every time you use them, to make sure that the paint is mixed. Yeah, so that is all 48 colours and they came out very nicely. There was a lot of shaking. This green is my favourite colour for some reason. So for today's video I wanted to do something with my OC Greta, so I planned some stuff out in my idea book, as you can see here, and I wanted to do several things testing out how these pens worked on multiple surfaces. So I'm going to be covering a sketchbook cover, drawing on glass and drawing on a tote bag. But to start off I just wanted to try something out in my book, because most often I just draw in my book. But I wanted to see how, because these are quite thick nibbed pens, I wanted to see how easy they were to just do a simple illustration. I decided to draw an OC that I don't really give much love to. Her name is Greta. She is part of my OC group with Kara and Caesar. Something you guys may not know, because I don't talk about them that much, is that my OCs, Kara, Caesar and Greta, and also Nick, who just does not get talked about, they are originally in a band. They're musicians whilst also having supernatural elements to them. So Kara is a demon, Caesar is a vampire, Nick is a werewolf, and Greta here is a necromancer. That's why I wanted her to have these gothic designs in her clothes, but I realised the other day that she looks a lot like Nadia from What We Do in the Shadows, which is quite funny because she's my favourite character, I think. It's hard to have a favourite on that show because they're all so good, but I love her so much. But yeah, she has some interesting designs. She's supposed to have these skeletal hands that wrap around her corset, so I just wanted to try and make that more clear, because in previous drawings of her it's not always clear that that's what's supposed to happen. With this set, I just tried to pick colours that I thought would look nice. I was making it up on the spot because she does sort of have a pre-established colour theme, but it doesn't exactly match the colours in the box, so I decided to go for a slightly warmer toned image, although I do think it kind of ends up a little on the cool side by the end of it. That might be because of some extra colours that I add later. These pens, they're not meant for something this small, I don't think. It's not impossible, I do my best with them, but because of the thick nib, they are definitely better suited to larger images, which is probably something I should have done. Thinking back on it, I should have just done a bigger image rather than trying to do something this detailed. That was part of what I wanted to test out, if it was possible. It was interesting. You really do need to shake them before each use to make sure that they are well mixed, because the paint does separate inside the pen quite easily, I've noticed. They were, for the most part, really good. The thickness of the paint when they came out seemed a bit... it wasn't very consistent. Sometimes it would come out really thick, so it would literally just come out where I put it with the pen, but sometimes it would come out really, really watery, which meant it was so hard to control it, and it made doing little details really difficult. And some pens were better than others, but the pink that I used on her hair is almost consistently really, really runny, which I struggle with a lot, because it also usually means it comes out quite thin, so it's hard to get a really good coverage. And the problem I had with this was, no matter how much I shook some of them, they would almost always come out runny. Some of them would get fixed, but it was just like I'd have to do a lot of shaking for them to come out fine, which was surprising because some of them just never had this problem, so it must be something to do with like how the colours are mixed. Ultimately, I have to say I myself am kind of mixed on my opinion of these pens. I think they're really, really good for large areas, although saying that, as you can see with the green here, it was sometimes difficult to cover it all in one go, which is why there were a lot of blank spots that I missed. So I'm not actually entirely sure what these pens are best suited for. It's probably something you'd have to mess around with and find out for yourself. I really like these pens, but they are also perhaps not for me. I think if the consistency of the paint got fixed, if it was either always runny, so it was meant for large areas, or always thick, so it was meant for more detail. If it like picked one, then I might prefer it more, but it just felt a little bit like a bit of a battle at times. But yeah, I did enjoy using them as well. The colours that came with the set were really, really nice. I got some nice pieces out of it, I think you'll see at the end. For this piece, I did decide to go in and line it with just some liners I have. I will leave all the information in the description of like things that I used in this video. I just went over the piece and added more details because, like I said, for a piece this small, the nib size just really does not work. So I went over everything with a line art, and then I went around it again just to thicken the outer edges, as you'll see soon. I really like how this piece turned out. I regret doing the snake skeleton. That's something that I drew for her in the past, and it isn't like accurately a snake skeleton. Like it's a very simplified version of it, so I don't think I'll be drawing a snake with her again in the future, but yeah, it was fun. The problem with having her as a necromancer obviously is things are most commonly a skeleton. It would be fun to mess around with her having like half dead things maybe in the future, and that way I get around it and it's not also the typical necromancer skeleton duo thing. You can see the pink here as being a nuisance. So then I wanted to just plan out some of the other pieces because obviously I had more things to do, like for the bag, the book and the picture frame. So I wanted to do a cute pigeon on the tote bag because I was thinking honestly that I would love to have a tote bag with a pigeon on it. Then I drew some little demon fox things that I made ages ago. Like I think I was just doodling them with some crayons at one point, and I really like them. They look like little mischievous spirits, so I wanted to draw something with them on the front cover of the book I had ready. And then on the picture frame I didn't really know what to do, so I just ended up drawing something with my spaceman Rick. I really had no idea what to do because the picture frame isn't that big. I decided to stick with something more simple, so it's just him holding a star on his finger. Right, so now that I have the planning out of the way, I can get started on making these covers and testing how these pens work on different mediums. They were encouraged to be used on different surfaces, which is why I decided to do that today. So I'm starting with the tote bag because that is the first thing I designed and the one I was honestly the most excited for because I've wanted to draw on tote bags for a long time. I've just never done it, which is why I have these tote bags to hand. Yeah, it was interesting. The material of these bags is a lot thinner than I expected, probably because they were just cheap off Amazon, and I just put down an old Amazon box to give me something to work on, but also so that these pens wouldn't bleed through to the other side of the bag. And sketching was really easy, as you saw, so then I just started laying down the pens. It was an interesting feeling. I could tell when I was putting them down that it was like bleeding out and like doing good coverage. or covering the area really well, that's a better way to say it. But then as the paint started drying, it would leave white spots, so I wonder if that was just to do with like it shrinking or something. I don't know how it works. But this grey pen here is like a good example of what I meant, where I can't tell if these pens are meant for large areas or not, because it was very, very streaky and I had to go over it several times to cover that up. It was really fun drawing this bird because the pens are slightly more limited in colours. I had to get a bit creative with it, and I just really exaggerated the colours of a pigeon, and it created this really nice colourful bird. I actually think the grey is almost out of place because of how colourful the rest of it is, but I also don't know what other colour I would have used, so I'm really happy with it ultimately. I really, really like how it turned out. It looks more like a parrot than a pigeon, maybe? Well, I don't know, by the time I add the line art, maybe it does all look better, it does come together. And adding this dark red, purple, maroon thing that I then also used for the line art really, really fixed it, brought it all together and neatened it up, so I really, really like that pen. And I decided to use it for some of the details, as well as this orange. For some reason I didn't know what colour to do for the details around it, and I outlined it in yellow as well because my brother said it would look good, and it does. I really like how it looks. That is the tote bag. Very happy with it, and I think I'll definitely be drawing on more in the future. It's a pigeon, and yeah, don't mind, there's a burn mark on my table from a tea candle. I burnt it years ago. But here are some sort of glamour shots of the bag, I guess. As I was filming it, I noticed that there were a ton of birds outside. I think that's where my love for pigeons recently has come from, because we just get so many in the garden. A lot of crows too, as you can see here, and they just happily plod away, which makes me very happy. Yeah, you can see here some of the white gaps that just somehow didn't get covered, even though it looked like everything was covered. It feels a little crispy now, but obviously it's paint, so it's not fabric markers. Moving on to the book, I decided to actually plan out a little more because I've never done a coloured version of these fox creatures, so I wanted to plan that out, like I said. So I'm just doing a quick lineless one here and seeing which colours I prefer, and this is when I had issue again with some of the colours just not mixing. I think that pink, the Q313, is consistently the one I have the most trouble with. As you saw at the bottom, it came out in 3 different shades despite me shaking so much before all 3 of them. That one is a nuisance, I won't lie. But for the most part, the rest of them came out pretty decently for this piece here, and I managed to get some fine-ish line art with the purple, which made me very happy. I could give him his creepy eyes. This book here is a really cheap, like, note-taking book. It's lineless, obviously, that I just grabbed from Asda a while ago, and they're pretty decent, and my plan for it in the future is to use it like an idea book, similarly to the one I showed at the beginning. I just started sketching straight on the cover, which was very easy. These pens laid down quite nicely, but they did need multiple layers, and honestly, even now, they still need more layers because I can still see the book through some of the colours, so I'm a little mixed. Like I said, these pens are encouraged to be used on other surfaces, but they don't lay down. You have to put multiple layers down, is all I will say. So I personally think I'm just going to stick to using them in my sketchbook where they don't need multiple layers, but for things like this, yeah, just be prepared to use them several times. Yeah, it was really fun. I'm glad I did the colour test because it let me figure out like where I should focus the paint. So you can see I did put a second layer down in some areas. I didn't want to waste the paint on covering areas that I knew were going to get covered by other colours anyway, so that's why it looks very patchy at some points. Really helped me just figure out where I wanted to put everything. I didn't have to think too much, and yeah, I'm really quite happy with how these little guys turned out. I did position them a little badly on the book. I think the top one could have been moved a bit more to the right. He probably could have gone up a bit more, but also then the tail might have got cut off. I think these guys turned out really nicely because I didn't line them properly. Because I left them a lineless look, they look really adorable in my opinion. They look quite soft. Yeah, I'm happy with that. And adding their little faces, just, it makes me so happy because they just look so creepy in like a cute way. Obviously I had to add some sparkles because how could I not? And I added a border. Then I decided to add the word ideas because that part of the cover was missing something. And obviously that is my plan for the future, to make it my idea book. So I thought, why not just make it a little more official, give it a little title. So now moving on to the picture frame. It is a cheap frame that I bought from Wilko. They are a little funky. This one is actually kind of broken. The latch doesn't latch, so yeah, if you're planning on getting these, just be prepared for that. They're cheap for a reason, but they are handy, especially for something like this, because obviously I've painted on the glass, so it's not gonna fall out. So this was interesting. I think I've learnt that I don't like painting on glass. It is a very weird feeling. The pens went down quite nicely. Again, they need multiple layers. There were a couple times, probably because I am drawing on glass, when I went over a layer again, it would pick up what was on the previous layer and actually like almost erase it. So that was really finicky, trying to figure out how to not do that, because obviously I want it to have a consistent flat colour. It was interesting. I think that darker colour was probably the best part of the whole picture. It looks the most consistent, but it does look a bit splotchy. You can see it's a little lumpy, and I'm not really sure what that is about. This was just a nice little simple one to do. It ended up being incredibly simple because I realised that I didn't know how to make it like a pretty thing. Here I am showing you why it is really important to shake the pens, because even after just laying down for a couple hours, the paints will separate, and that is usually when you get your most inconsistent colours. Just shake them before every use and they're meant to be fixed. This is that one pink that was just giving me a lot of grief. I don't know how you're supposed to get around that, so multiple layers is probably a good thing to do for this one. So I think with these pens, it's probably a good idea to use them with something, because they are so thick. Like I said, it is difficult to get thin lines, so probably if you have perhaps the other Arrtx pens to go with these ones, then you could probably use them in tandem together really nicely just to make up like fine details. But using them just on their own, I think, like I said earlier, definitely suited to bigger pieces, which is why I think the pigeon turned out so well, because it is the biggest of them all. The fox creatures also turned out okay, but they're lineless, so I think that's probably why. So I decided to keep this one very simple because it is on glass. I just wanted the glass to be like a feature, so I wanted him to have a background you could see through. I just wanted to show what my plans were with that. You can put it on like different backgrounds to just create this different vibe. That's basically it for this video. I'm really happy with how much we managed to get done. Trying it out on the different textures was really interesting. I think the bird turned out my favourite, but working on the book cover was definitely my most preferable texture, aside from using paper, I mean. Like I said, the glass just felt weird. It was very buttery, so yeah, it was interesting to try them out. These pens are good, They hold a lot of paint, as you can see here through this window. There is a lot of paint in them. They definitely need shaking before use. Like I said, the paints will split. I think the size of the nib is really good for big pieces. I think the problem is I personally like doing smaller things and having finer details in my pictures, which is why I struggled a little with them. There are a couple problems I had with them, as I mentioned earlier. I don't want to linger on that too much. I hope you enjoyed this video. These were definitely super fun to make. I really loved just like messing around with my OCs and a pigeon. The colours that come with this set are definitely some really nice colours. Like this green, for some reason, I just really love. Thank you so much if you made it to this part of the video. I want to say a huge thank you to Arrtx for letting me try out these pens, as well as a huge thank you to my Patreons. Dispe, Megan Palmer, Grimcarl, Non-Toxic, Saint Nick's, LP, Kira May, Kay, Annabelle, Joanna, Sir Studalot, Mila, VB, Pretty Rotten, Crescent Frog, Joanna Snake Moon, Humble Frogs, Local Fishkeeper, Mold Ghoul, Art Mancy, Farrar Ware, Sun Arts, Molly Marula, Hannah Anderson, Sammy Bear 127, Kenzania, Jades, Arrow, Charlie, Malorus, Ghosty, Jess H30, Cindy King, Vlada, Art by Lavender, A Woodsy, Rainbow Tea, Breaded Nuggets, Dumb Teen, and Neva Thorpe. Thank you guys so much for your constant support. I appreciate it so much, and I should hopefully have another video out for you guys soon.